And good morning. Oh dear, voice is going already. That's not a good start, is it? Good morning.
You've got your coffee, that's a hint.
Yes, I've had my coffee. I've drunk my coffee. Good morning. Let's get all the gear set up. There we are. Right. Okay, we're doing a bit of a test this morning, streaming to other places. So let's hope it doesn't go horribly wrong. Good morning. Good morning, Janet. They're nice, bright and early. Good morning, Claire. Eric is under that pile of blankets somewhere. Welcome to Wednesday. God, middle of January already. Madness. Good morning. Good morning, Minion. Good morning, Amanda. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, Jay. Let's move the microphone a bit if the voice is going to be dodgy. Oh dear. We are still mid-bathroom renovation, so I apologise if there is any noise. It shouldn't be too bad today. They are tiling at the moment, bless them. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Angela from soggy France. Supposed to get snow, ended up with rain. That sounds very British, actually. We had frost yesterday, and it's very crispy out there at the minute. No snow though. We're too near the sea to get too much snow, but it is cold. Definitely cold. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Maharet. Good morning, Emma. No, we haven't got a window yet. We have a piece of board. Oh, I can hear drilling. Yeah, it might.
That's because you started going live.
Yes, you might have some nice background noise today, but hopefully no barking.
Hopefully no singing.
He is getting slightly better with them.
2 weeks
the
in.
Workman, yeah, he's not barking so much. So hopefully it won't be that.
He's in there.
Good morning, Jackie and Steve, with your new vintage witchcrafts. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Kerry from a cold Clonelly. Yes, cold down in the south too. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Maria. Right, good morning, Deb. Have to look. I'm streaming to the Kitchen Witch Facebook group as well today, just as a test. The names don't always come up. So if I'm looking about, it's because I'm looking up your names. Good morning, Kat. Had more snow early this morning, so cold. No snow. Well, we had a fluttering.
Was it even a
No, I had one snowflake land on my sleeve last week.
All the school shut.
That was it. Good morning, Kelly. Freezing in the northeast. Yes. Yeah, that is Eric Maria under there. There's a little pair of eyes just watching.
Yeah, they're moving. Yeah.
They are moving. So it's a quiet month, January, intentionally quiet month, because I have got book writing that needs doing. Yeah. Phoenix Flames, I am cracking on with the Hedge Witch book. I promise I am. Yes, the hand has already delivered coffee because Pete made coffee for the workman this morning, so I had an early cup of coffee. I didn't get a penguin though. How come the workman got a chocolate biscuit and I didn't?
You adopted a penguin, madam, at Christmas.
I did adopt a penguin at Christmas. I did.
You're welcome.
So it's a quiet month, although there is a study hall for the Kitchen Witch students next Saturday the 20th. Details of that in the student Facebook group and the forum. Other than that, very quiet in January. We have got a new What's On page on the Kitchen Witch Facebook page, kitchenwitchhearth.net. Please put the link up there, thank you, which will let you know when we've got online rituals or study halls or events that all of us are going to be at. So that's a new page up on the website. Obviously, if you want to know what I'm up to, there's my events page on my website. Struggling this morning. Yeah, no lipstick today. Got a cold sore, so apologies if anybody's got me on the big screen. I'm looking a bit lumpy. Good morning, Trudy. Maria, he is very cozy. That's where he spends most of the day when we're working, in that armchair. It's an easy life, isn't it? But without a working shower at the moment, He did get a little bit whiffy, but we took him to our daughter's yesterday and he had a bath, so he's smelling sweet too. Good morning, Tony. Janet has a wind chill advisory right now of 5 degrees. It's a little bit fresh. Good morning, David. Yeah, bathroom is, we're at 2 weeks today. There was a lot of work to do with the pipe work and the plumbing and skimming ceilings and all sorts of electrical stuff. They are now starting on the tiling, so we should start to see some pretty stuff going on. Still no shower and no toilet. We have been washing, I promise. We've been driving to our daughter and son-in-law's house on a regular basis to borrow their shower while they're at work. Emma, still no heating. Oh, bad day not to have any heating. Waiting on the engineer plus the electrician. Yeah, I feel you. Air front doors open most of the time at the moment with workmen going in and out. And yeah, it's a little bit nippy. But gotta do it. So I thought today we would start. What I want to do going forward this year is look at some basic normal ingredients that you have in your kitchen cupboards, that you have around the house, that have got huge magical potential. So I thought the best one to start with was salt. Everyone's got salt, comes in all kinds of varieties, and I'm going to go through those as well. So magical, so useful. So do you use salt in your magical practice? If you do, what do you use it for? Do you use a particular type of salt? Let me know. See where we're going. Jackie, remember relying on friends and relatives for showers. Yes. Thankfully, we have a door key. And when our daughter and son-in-law are at work, we can just nip over there and let ourselves in and have a shower. But yes, we took Eric with us yesterday and he had a bath.
He wasn't impressed.
He wasn't impressed. No. Well, actually, it was quite nice and warm. I think he appreciated the warm water. So yeah, salt. So let's have a look at magical salt today. I don't think you need to spend lots of money on fancy salt. I don't think there's so many varieties. I don't think you need to buy the salt. That is incredibly expensive. That was collected by flying nuns from a hidden Tibetan monastery, on a Friday at noon whilst hopping on one leg, chanting prayers. Yeah, because it's going to be exceptionally expensive. I think salt is salt, with a couple of exceptions, and we will come to that. I think the salt I use in my magical practice is just cheap old table salt. Salt is a crystalline mineral. That sounds like Star Trek. What was that? Crystalline entity. Yeah. Yes, Data, wasn't it?
That's
sorry,
series, I think.
Sorry, nerd moment there. Crystalline mineral made of 2 elements, sodium and chlorine, which sounds really nasty, doesn't it? Most of the world's salt is harvested from salt mines or by evaporating seawater or other mineral-rich waters. It is cleansing, it is purifying, it is protective. If you've ever seen the film Hocus Pocus, they use salt to protect against the witches, which is rude. I think they use salt in Spiderwick as well. Spiderwick Chronicles, fantastic film. They use salt protection there as well. It is the simplest, cheapest, most effective way to make a protective circle. But it is also cleansing. It's also purifying. I use it in tons of spell working because it's so easy to get a hold of. You always got it in the kitchen cupboard and it's really cheap. It has a strong feminine energy. Alchemists used to believe that it was the opposite of sulfur, which is male. So salt was feminine, sulfur was male. It's brilliant for cleansing the house. There's a lot of folk magic where you sprinkle a pinch of salt into the corner of each room before you start any spell work, just to cleanse, to purify, to bring in protection. I like to mix it. I mix it with black pepper, red pepper, corns, cayenne pepper, chili pepper. You get a kind of hot foot mix with that, which is incredibly protective. So it is cleansing, it is purification, it's protection. It's ruled by the planet of Earth. It is the element of Earth, and it is feminine. But so useful for all sorts of things. So let's get some of these up. Claire says sea salt, protection, boundaries. Boundaries is a good one. Yeah, absolutely. No, we're all right. All right. It's all right. Making a bit of noise. Good morning, Jalala, from a wet and rainy Normandy. We haven't got the rain, it's just cold here. Good morning, Jane. Claire says black salt. Now that's an interesting one. So let's have a look at black salt, which is ritual or witch's black salt. Oh, we've got another one. Sorry, we'll get to that one. It's used for protection. It's used for removing negative energy. It's a combination usually of salt and charcoal. You can make black salt really easily yourself. 2 parts salt, 1 part ash from your fire pit. I've even used black pepper on occasion if I haven't got any ash or charcoal. You can even mix it with the ash from your incense to make black salt. Black lava salt, very black in colour. It's sea salt that's been blended with activated charcoal. You get Indian black salt. I am reading these because there's a whole load of them. Indian black salt is Indian volcanic rock salt, known by many names, including Himalayan black salt. Starts out as Himalayan pink salt and then is then heated to extremely high temperatures, mixed with Indian spices and herbs. It sounds delicious. That's got all sorts of things in it. But we'll go back to let's start with table salt. Jane says here, table salt isn't pure salt. It's got iodine added to make sure everyone gets enough to avoid getting goiters. Would iodine get in the way of spells? No. I use table salt all the time. It is my base salt that I use because it's cheap and easy to get hold of. It is highly refined. It's heavily ground, which is why it's fine. Most of the impurities and trace minerals are removed. Some table salt has caking agents so that it flows freely, so do check. Iodine is sometimes added as well, not always. Food grade table salt is almost pure sodium chloride or 97% or higher. So check the labels if you're worried about it. But for me, table salt works as salt. It's cleansing, it's purifying, it's protecting. I've never had a problem with it. And it's cheap and cheerful to get hold of. I think you have to go with what works for you. But no, it doesn't get in the way of any. I've never had any issues with it, Jane. Karen loves salt. Buy and use all sorts of salt, fancy and regular, on a daily basis. Now, I would recommend keeping an eye out in the cheaper supermarkets. I bought a big bottle. I can't get it because it's upstairs in the room with all of the bathroom stuff in it. I can't get to the cupboard in a minute. I bought a big bottle of Himalayan salt from Lidl's, and it was really cheap. So do keep an eye out. So sea salt is made by evaporating seawater. It is mostly sodium chloride, like table salt. Depending on where it's harvested and how it's processed, it will contain some other trace elements, minerals, potassium, iron, zinc. Darker the sea salt, the higher its concentration of impurities and trace nutrients. But keep in mind that due to pollution of the oceans, sea salt can also contain trace amounts of heavy metals like lead. Worth checking if, I use sea salt. I use sea salt when I use table salt in cooking, and I use sea salt when I'm seasoning things at the end. Just bear it in mind. What we got here, let's have a look. Vintage witchcrafts have some black lava salt. Very nice. Obviously, lava, black lava. Black lava salt is black in colour. It's sea salt blended with activated charcoal. So nice, because it has, for me, that has the element of fire mixed in with the element of earth. Interesting combination. Emma, silly question. Never any silly questions. Garlic salt and onion salt, do they still classify as salt? They have a base of salt, but you've got added things. So garlic salt, onion salt will have the elements of, I'm just going to look, see what's in it. Garlic salt. Don't type garlic slat because that's not going to work. Let's have a look, see what it's got in it. Right, garlic salt, mixture of dried ground garlic and table salt, sometimes with an anti-caking agent. Yeah, so yeah, you're pretty good with those. You've got the benefits of salt, and then you will have the benefits of garlic as well, or onion. And in fact, garlic salt would be brilliant for protection because garlic's got a protective energy as well. So perfect and delicious. Kerry, many years ago, I bought some consecrated salt from a witch fair. 30 years later, it's salt from Sainsbury's. Yeah, but this is my point. Salt is salt is salt. You can get more complicated if you want to, like garlic salt, or like looking at black salt that's got charcoal added to it, or ash mixed in with it, or so you're bringing other elements to it. But the base of salt is salt. And, I don't think it really matters where it comes from. Good morning, Sue. Hawaiian black salt. Yes, it is often labelled. I'm going by my notes here. Black salt, black lava salt, black in colour, sea salt that's blended with activated charcoal and may be labelled as Hawaiian black salt. It's adding layers, isn't it? It's adding layers to it. That charcoal will add extra magic to it as well. Charlie, was the salt over the shoulder when you spill it to keep away bad luck? One shoulder to keep the devil away. Does anyone know why? Well, it's from Practical Magic, isn't it? Always throw sea salt over. Yes, whenever you spill salt, you're supposed to take a pinch of it and throw it over your shoulder. I always thought it was to keep away bad luck. Yeah, I don't know where the tradition comes from. If anyone knows, be interesting to find out. Good morning, Lee. David says Aldi's cheaper. Yeah, but Lidl's closer to me, David. In actual fact, I very rarely go in there. We've got a fantastic European supermarket near us, and they've got a whole shelf of different types of salt, which are very cheap.
2 years ago today was the last time you went in there.
What?
Portsmouth Arena, 2 years ago today.
Thank you. Random piece of information.
Anytime.
And Jane's just said that some Asian supermarkets sell Himalayan pink salt in big jars, cheap enough to chuck handfuls in the bath. I highly recommend. We have a fantastic Asian supermarket, but we have brilliant European supermarkets within walking distance to us. Big bags of herbs and spices and salt at decent prices. Good morning, Melody. Good morning, Eva, from a rainy and cold dog training. Oh, yeah, not nice. Karen, I use salt in witch bottles and in herbal mixtures for spells, as do I. Never use salt for a protective circle. Seems such a waste. Well, this is it. If you use good old table salt, it's very cheap and it works just as well. And you don't need very much of it. Just, you can even put just a pinch in the corners of the room. It doesn't have to be huge amounts. David's now adding to his shopping list. Lee, I make black salt with incense ash and normal salt. Perfect. Left shoulder. Yes, for throwing the salt over. Yes, I always thought it was left shoulder as well. Now there is that. Indoors, it'll mean hoovering and taking the magic out of things. Outdoors, yes, you don't want to be sprinkling salt outdoors because it's not very good for the soil or for plant life, animal life. Indoors, yes, you're going to have to clear it up. You're going to have to sweep it, whatever. If you've got a big piece of board and it's just you, big piece of board, it's easier to sweep up. If you've got a rug or a throw, you can put that on the floor and then it's easier to clear up. If you are indoors, that doesn't have to be an entire circle. You can just put a little pinch in each corner of the room. Depends what space you've got, doesn't it? David, Salt, love to use it. I keep forgetting to put something down like a tray, so when it comes clean up, it gets everywhere. It's a bit like sand, isn't it? It gets everywhere. Kerry, my granddad used to say chucking salt over the shoulders stopped the devil jumping into you. It's always wise. Unless you want him to. So let's have a look at Himalayan salt. It's been mentioned a couple of times. So Himalayan salt harvested in Pakistan. It's mined from the Kera salt mine. Probably pronounced that wrong. Second largest salt mine in the world. Himalayan salt often contains trace amounts of iron oxide, rust, basically, which gives it its pink colour. Does contain small amounts of calcium, iron, potassium, and magnesium. Also contains slightly lower amounts of sodium than regular salt. Interesting. It is more expensive, but again, it's just salt. Kosher salt, and if anybody watches Ina Garten, fantastic cook, love her, got all of her books. All of her recipes start with, a pound of butter, which is bonus for me. She uses kosher salt a lot. I think a lot of chefs do use kosher salt. It was originally used for religious purpose. Jewish law required blood to be extracted from meat before it was eaten. Kosher salt has a flaky, coarse structure that's particularly efficient at extracting the blood. Apologies, I should have done a warning before that, shouldn't I? The main difference between regular salt and kosher salt is the structure of the flakes. Kosher salt, the flakes are quite large. Not much difference between table salt and kosher salt other than the size of the flakes. And kosher salt doesn't usually contain any caking agents or any iodine. So it's a bit purer, if you like. But it's still salt. Now, I also found when I was doing research for this Celtic salt. I've never seen it. Has anyone seen Celtic salt? It is apparently a type of salt that originally became popular in France. Angela might be able to answer that one for us. It has a greyish colour and also contains a bit of water, which makes it quite moist. Celtic salt contains trace amounts of minerals and is a bit lower in sodium than plain table salt. The other one, of course, is Epsom salts, slightly different, not actually salt, just to be really confusing. Naturally occurring pure mineral compound of magnesium and sulfate. Used to mix with essential oils, with herbs, with petals to create bath salts. Used for beauty products, medicinal, relaxing baths, foot scrubs, cleaning. Don't eat them. Don't eat Epsom salts. It's not salt. I don't use them in magic. For me, they are for bath products, beauty products. But I did mention salt a while back, and the very lovely lady from the Witch's Cottage sent me some Blackthorn salt. And I have got my little jar here. Now, this is quite special. Having said salt is salt is salt, it smells. It smells amazing, which for salt is a bit bizarre. But the Blackthorn salt is salt and all the properties that salt brings, but it brings properties of blackthorn as well. Nice mixture. The blackthorn properties are held within the salt itself because of the way the salt's produced. So Atlantic seawater is dripped through huge towers of blackthorn branches. So it captures their magical properties and seals it within the crystals as they're formed. And I have to say, it's lovely stuff. Fascinating to work with. So that's my slight exception to the rule that salt is salt. With something like that, but you're bringing in other properties again. It's like black salt. You're bringing in another property. You're adding layers to that magic. But as a base, table salt. That's my take on it anyway. Good evening, Sephora. Janet. I have broken mini plant twister that I turned into a storage bottle for my pink salt. Keep it in my herb closet. Nice. My mum always had her salt in a salt pig, which I love the name of. It does actually look, the ceramic jars, they do actually look like pigs. Fascinating. Jane, kosher salt is lovely. It's very tenacious and great for dredging. Doesn't roll off everything like the cubic stuff. It's the size of the flakes, isn't it? I don't buy kosher salt as such, but I do buy the big flake sea salt for, putting on your chips. Fountain of knowledge. No, fountain of research, Emma. I do lots of research. It doesn't always stay in my head, which is why with something like this, I do often have a few notes because I don't remember stuff. I have got a brain like a sieve. There we go. Sephora. Celtic sea salt is lovely. We have it here. Love Himalayan salt because it's pink and pretty. But that's, we have salt and seaweed mix. Yes, I've seen that as well. Which is nice because you've got the added then layers of magic from the seaweed, because seaweed has all sorts of magical properties. Claire, I like Celtic salt. Grey one won't show up on the floor. Janet, does Dead Sea salt count? The Dead Sea is the one that has lots of salt in, isn't it? You're supposed to be able to just float in it even if you can't swim. I've never seen it for sale, put it that way. Jane, what do you use Blackthorn salt? Okay, so salt has protective energies anyway, cleansing, releasing. With Blackthorn for me is all about protection. Let's get Blackthorn up. I've got my book here. Or are they upstairs?
Can I get this up?
Oh, they're upstairs. I'll bring up the thing. This is what happens when you're in absolute chaos. Blackthorn for me is definitely protection because of the thorns. It is quite a magical tree, shrub, bush. Let's find Blackthorn. This is where I look like a Wally on the screen, staring at. I'm staring at the screen. Let's get Blackthorn up. So Blackthorn is protection. No, right. Protection, exorcism, divination, and healing. I've been writing about Blackthorn recently, but from the thorns point of view. Blackthorn thorns are really good for working with poppets, for carving candles, that sort of thing. Hexing, if that's your thing. Because the thorns are really long and they're really sharp, so they bring a really strong protection to it. So for me, that adds to the salt. You've got protection and another layer of protection, so it really gives a big punch of it. Blackthorn's also useful for making divining rods from. Very good for removing negative energy, protecting against negative energy, exorcism of all kinds, and not just demons, but negative energy, getting rid of negative energy. Folklore often mentions the Blackthorn as a wicked tree full of bad magic used by evil black magicians. So I love it. I think that's probably the idea of the thorns as well, making it quite a wicked tree. But it does have the power to cleanse. It's also quite a healing tree as well. And I think the salt's quite healing as well. So in a long answer to your question, and the short answer is it adds a layer to combine with the salt. It brings protection, it brings healing, but it is very good at dispelling negative energy. Let's get rid of that. Maria, actually don't like salt, and when cooking will only add it if it really needs it. I think it's like salt and pepper. They're seasonings, aren't they? I think they do bring something to cooking. I think you notice if it's not there, but I guess it's whatever you get used to as well, isn't it? Claire, magnesium salt with oils for cleansing bath before ritual. That for me is where the Epsom salts come in. You can make lovely ritual bath mixtures with salts and herbs and oils. Trudy, Himalayan lamp is what I use, and aesthetically pleasing, and also the salt candle holders. So I have salt and candles combined in my rituals. They are fascinating, aren't they? The salt lamps. Fascinating. Don't put them straight on your woodwork though, because they do seem to leak a bit of salt. Jalala, read recently that using salt on the soil land isn't great. Yeah, don't do it, because it is lethal to some earth creatures and changes the saline levels in the soils. It was suggested that crushed eggshells might be an alternative. I use crushed eggshells in magic anyway. You can make cascarilla powder from eggshells. It's used in hoodoo a lot. Crushed eggshells are brilliant for working in magic. They are really good for making sigils and protective circles as well. And the slugs don't like them. But yeah, don't go chucking loads of salt on your soil. It does change the level of things, and it does the plants don't like it, the animals don't like it. So yes, wise. Yeah, chips. Yeah, sorry about that. I had fish and chips last night. You've got to have salt on chips. Angela, Celtic salt from the Gironde area of France, Atlantic coast. Only a couple of hours from us. It's lovely. Some say it's grey. I think it's a lovely pale grey blue. We buy it in large bags direct from Dry's, and it's not expensive. Perfect. Hi, Pia. Good morning, Melanie. David, kosher salt. Yeah, that's not going to be used in magic in this house, just cooking. Yes. Yeah, for me, I have the more expensive sea salt for seasoning things after they're cooked. I use table salt for cooking and for magic. Yeah. But it's whatever you've got and whatever fits your pocket as well, I think. Angela, the Celtic salt has greater trace elements in it, especially depending on what area it's from. Yeah, the information I had says it contains trace amounts of minerals and also lower in sodium than table salt, so slightly better for you. Jane, I bought Dead Sea salt from Amazon quite a while back to use as an ingredient in bath product. Interesting. Did you like it? Did it work? I've not used that one. Sephora, I used to work for a dentist, and rinsing with salt water was something advised so often as healing and antibacterial. Absolutely. If you've ever had any dental work done, they do advise you to swill with salt water. Quite often, if you've had operations and things, they advise putting some salt in the bath as well. It is very, very healing. Angela, love the blackthorn tree and making sloe gin. Yes. That takes me back to my young farmers days. One of the young farmers always had a hip flask with homemade sloe gin in. And when you've been out in the cold for a long time, it's very welcoming. Emma, I do love blackthorn. Have to try the blackthorn salt. It came from the Witch's Cottage, which has some lovely, lovely things in it. It's interesting, very interesting to work with. Amanda, for salt produced through evaporation, would the salt still carry the water's properties, or do the properties evaporate with the water? They leave behind trace elements. So you will still, it's like this blackthorn salt. It is sea salt. All sea water is salty, isn't it? So it still carries those trace elements that the water left behind, which is why I think for me that salt is an earth element rather than a water one. But I guess you could bring that into it. Connect with the energies and see how it feels for you, really. I think the water leaves elements behind, minerals and the word's gone. Elements and whatever the other thing is. But the actual water does evaporate, so it doesn't, for me, carry the element of water with it anymore. But it might for you. Sephora, asparagus loves seawater or seaweed. Probably the one exception. Seaweed has got lots of magical properties as well. Angela's arguing with autocorrect this morning. Janet, I bought this blackthorn salt from the Witch's Cottage. If you do a search for the Witch's Cottage on the internet, she's got a lovely website. She does all sorts of lovely things. Indeed, the trace elements in the salt will depend on the underlying geology of the area. every area that produces salt is going to have slightly different minerals and elements to it. Yeah, absolutely. Sephora, we have iodized salt here. We do. Yep, I have to get pickling salt for ferments. We do have that as well. Yes, absolutely. I mean, the local European supermarket has a whole rack of all these different salts with all different things. The one that I bought from Lidl had, you open it up and it smells of rotten eggs. So there was definitely some sulfur in there. It's very unpleasant. If anyone was at Pagan Tribal Gathering last year, and we will be there again this year, fantastic camp. We used some of the salt with the sulfur in it for one of the magical workings that we did, and it does smell of bad eggs. You have to have a warning on it beforehand that it's going to smell like that. It smells like standing at the top of a volcano. Thank you. There's the link to the Witch's Cottage. Thank you. Jalala, can get a bit confusing when we start talking about elements in terms of atoms and molecules, and elements, earth, water. Yes, when I talk about elements, I'm talking earth, air, fire, water, spirit, magical elements, not atoms and molecules. I don't have a very scientific brain, although I love when science and magic meet, because they do quite often. Thank you. There's a link to Pagan Tribal Gathering. If anyone's up for that this year, we will be back there again. Jane, the reason canary tomatoes taste so good is because the water table is brackish, where salt water meets non-salt water, and the soil is volcanic. No bit of land there is very far from the coast. Tomatoes come ready salted. Where a volcano has erupted, apparently the land is always really fertile. I must admit, we buy our tomatoes from the Isle of Wight. It's not quite as exotic as the Canary Islands, but we get them from the Isle of Wight because they are the best tomatoes we've had.
They ruin all other tomatoes.
They do ruin all other tomatoes, but you can only get them seasonally. They're not in season at the moment. But when they are, we actually do buy them from there. We get them sent to us. They're amazing. Emma, Google seems to be your best friend today. Now, a lot of the Blackthorn info came from my herb book. But yes, we love Google. Sephora sounds like Rotorua, a whole town that smells of rotten eggs. It's the volcano, isn't it? That's what it smells like. Karen, I've got a lump of the bad egg smells salt. Haven't braved the great. But it's going to bring an extra oomph of magic to it. So salt is feminine, so that sulfur is masculine. So you're going to have a really nice balance of masculine and feminine energies with it. It's interesting stuff to work with. David, a touch of salt with bicarb in filtered water. Great homemade mouthwash. The touch of intention and a little mint extract. You have a nice cleanser, so you don't have to have a mouthful of bath water when you have a cleansing bath. Yeah, you don't want to be drinking salt water. But yeah, it's really cleansing. It's really healing. Charlie, my nan would get me to gargle a nasty sore throat with warm water and salt. It always cleared. Interesting. It is healing. It's healing. So that kind of makes sense. I think I might stick to my lemon and honey, though. Ginger. Jackie, a friend bought me Kala Namak salt. I think I had that written down here. Yes, Indian black salt. Indian volcanic rock salt. Starts out as Himalayan pink salt or sodium chloride and is then heated to extremely high temperatures and mixed with Indian spices and herbs. I'm going to have a look in the supermarket, actually, in our local Asian supermarket, see if they've got some of that, because I've never had it, never worked with it, but it sounds delicious. I'm going to have to look at it for cooking. Jane, sulfur always makes me think of bed knobs and broomsticks. Well, she was amazing, wasn't she? Yeah, she was brilliant. Fabulous film. Jalala, my old Rayburn burning anthracite left a grand layer of eggy sulfur dust everywhere. Oh, yeah, I bet. I used to have a Rayburn on the farm. Sephora, if iodized salt okay to use for magic, it's our cheap salt. Anything else nowadays is getting pricey. Yes, absolutely. say I use cheap old supermarket brand, cheap as chips. Where that phrase comes from, cheap as chips. Anyway, for magic, absolutely. If I'm doing something, if I'm making a spell pouch, then I will use the more expensive salt. If I am doing a witch's bottle where I need quite a decent amount of salt, I will use the cheap table salt. Salt is salt, and it carries all that. Each one carries magical properties. For me, there's no real difference in really expensive salt flakes and cheap table salt. They're both still salt. They both carry the magical properties of salt. The only difference gets when you start adding things like the blackthorn salt or the black salt where you've got the charcoal added. Then you've got another layer of something else that brings different magical properties with it. Angela, Karlanak salt is the one that has an eggy taste and smell, often used by vegans with tofu to create a scrambled egg alternative. Okay, now I have seen scrambled tofu, and much as I love food and I will always eat whatever, I like to try new things. It looked disgusting. It looked, I've still got Eric on there. It did look revolting, I have to say. Not a big fan of tofu, I must admit. But when you're adding it in your cooking as well, you're adding magic. I'm just checking that Facebook one. You're adding magic to your food as well. So you are adding protection. You are adding cleansing, purifying. When you're seasoning your food, you're adding that as well. And salt also provides a base for all sorts of things. So if you make sachet powders to add to your spell pouches, salt's a really good base to add all of your other things to. If you are making any kind of mixture, particularly sachet powders, where you have to grind things in your pestle and mortar, salt provides an abrasive for it. So it's really helpful in breaking down all the other ingredients. If I'm making a sachet powder, if it's for releasing, letting go, if it's for protection, if it's for healing, I will use salt as my base. If it's for bringing in positive energy or happiness, any of the good vibes, then I'll use sugar as my base, but we'll cover sugar in another chat. It is a really good base for all sorts of things. It provides the base in all my witches bottles as well because it soaks up negative energy. So it's brilliant to use in witch bottles to dispel negative energy, but also to protect against negative energy as well. It's just so useful for all sorts of things. Jalala wants to be Eric. Yeah, he's quite happy under all those blankets. Sephora, about to embark on making herb salt, rosemary, garlic salt springs to mind. Be nice on chips. Oh, rosemary's lovely on chips. Herbed salt, rosemary, garlic. Yeah, it's breakfast because not mid-morning. It's hobbit time. It's second breakfast time here in England. So I'm hungry now. Jane, love it when you go big screen. Those through your bookshelf. You can't see many. Most of them are albums behind me.
That is a good thing.
It is a good thing. Yes, it is a good thing. I've got all the herbals and the leechcraft books out at the moment because I'm writing the Hedge Witch book. Emma, I remember the hospital putting salt into my bath after a serious surgery involved my tummy. Yeah, because it's so cleansing. I was a bit scared, but was grateful for it in the end. I was told to be careful as to how much I use. Yeah, you don't want to pickle yourself. Yeah, it is very healing, very cleansing. Angela, thankfully not all tofu is created the same. While we are veggie, not vegan, we have tried it and it was lovely, as long as you use the right tofu. Yes, I must admit, I don't mind the chunks of tofu when they're coated in something nice and good, but the scrambled egg tofu looked revolting. It was grey. It did not look appetizing. Emma, gravy on chips is nice. I had gravy on my chips last night. Fish chips, mushy peas and gravy. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. Although when we were in Greece, they put oregano on their chips as well. They were very nice. But salt is, you can use salt as a base. You can add all sorts of different things to it. You can mix all different sorts of things into it. It's just salt water. If you want to bring a bit of the ocean magic, put some sea salt in some water. You make your own ocean water. I put it into anything that I'm using for cleansing the house. So if you don't want to use smoke for cleansing your home, put some salt in water, and then you can just flick. Don't want to be pouring loads of salt water in the house, but you can flick salt water into the corners of each room, and that will cleanse all the negative energy out as well. It is so versatile for all sorts of things. Be mindful if you are making spell pouches and they are those organza pouches, though, because table salt falls out. Oh, there it's gone. The builders have just gone outside. Yeah, it falls out of the organza pouches. So probably best to use flakes, big flakes of salt for that. But it all carries that same projective, cleansing, purifying energy. So it's useful in all kinds of magic. Okay, Eric's being put back in his bed now. Let's see what other information I've got here. So I mentioned hot foot powder. So I do use salt as my base for hot foot powder. If you've not worked with hot foot powder, it is very protective. It is very exorcising, not exercising. No, not that. We don't do that.
I was about to laugh.
I make hot foot powder. I mix salt, black pepper, and either chili powder or cayenne pepper. Doesn't matter. It makes a really nice protective blend, but it's also really good if you've got neighbours that are being loud, noisy, obnoxious. You can sprinkle it around your boundaries. The idea of hot foot powder was that you sprinkled the powder. Just like, let's put Eric up because he looks funny. There, look, he's just being sorted out. Hot foot powder is, the idea is that you sprinkle it in your boundaries, or you sprinkle it on the doorstep of someone that you want to remove, and they step in it. No, he's gone. And they step in it, and the foot carries it. So it's hot foot powder, and it gets rid of them. Simple ingredients: salt, pepper, chili powder. Simple ingredients, and they make an immensely powerful magical powder to get rid of things, to get rid of negative energy, to protect your property. Perfect. If you're worried about sprinkling on the ground, obviously, although if you just sprinkle it mixed in with the pepper and the chili pepper, it's not so bad. You can just put it under your front door mat to bring in that protection. Jalala just had a vision of using a water spray with salt water for cleansing the house and seeing the negative spirits reacting like a cat that's just been sprayed. Perfect. That's what just what it does. Yeah, I'd not thought of putting it actually in a water spray bottle. I just flick it. That's me flicking water, just in case you wondered.
You're a natural.
I am a natural, yeah. Emma, I've always used table salt, then was told off by another witch for doing so. She wasn't a nice person, but I thought to myself, I'm still going to use it. There is this whole idea that you have to use exotic, expensive, magical ingredients. There's the boss man builder. You don't. This is kitchen witchcraft at its best. Use cheap, easily available ingredients. They've all got those same magical properties. Don't buy a bag of salt from a magical seller because it's probably just table salt. You can charge it, you can imbue it, you can add magic and ingredients to it yourself. Witchcraft shouldn't cost loads of money. I apologise for the background noises. Zephora, do dragons have a connection to salt? For some reason springs to mind. Probably are Tuatara, which are ancient little dragons. I work primarily with fire dragons, so there's not a huge amount of salt connection there. The earth dragons may well have a bit more of connection to it. The dragon world is huge, and there are so many different types that they will all have their own connections. So I would say initially, as a whole, dragons, no, not a huge connection to salt. But that, they're all individual. They all have their own likes and dislikes. Karen, I've got a witch bottle on my work desk filled with rock salt, a dead bee, and a tiger's eye crystal. Gives me the strength to communicate with negative work column. Love it. Perfect. That sounds absolutely perfect. Jane, I wish I'd known about hotfoot powder when I did my Go West pest spells years ago. It works brilliantly for removing negative energy, for bringing in protection and getting rid of people, should you wish to. I don't mean, doing them in, just removing them from your circle. Jane, village witches centuries ago didn't have access to posh ingredients, but their magic worked just as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Just give the dog a brief second to finish.
Yeah, whatever causes you least happiness.
He likes to sing. Yeah, magic needs to work to your pocket. And as a kitchen witch, I will use whatever ingredients I've got in my cupboard. I'll use whatever I've got to hand. For me, it all has that magical purpose. Probably better, Karen. Yeah, absolutely. Jamie, could I ask a question about black salt? Yes, for protection of spell jars. I know you add eggshells, which leads to my question. Should the eggshells be from cooked or uncooked eggs? You don't necessarily need to add eggshells. Protection spell jars. Eggs bring a whole other magic with them. Eggs they bring in all 4 elements: earth, air, fire, water. So the whole egg has all 4 elements within it. Let me bring up the information about that one. Don't want that one. I want the magical food book now. Let's get that one up, and then I can read you the information about eggshells. I do save eggshells. I save them from either, actually. I'm just trying to think how I do it. Usually I save them, usually I'm making a cake, let's be honest. So I save the shells from raw eggs. I just rinse them and leave them to dry, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't use them from cooked eggs as well. Let's get eggs up. But they aren't necessary in spell jars or in black salt. I don't add eggshells to black salt. Black salt is salt and charcoal, or salt and ash from the fire. But you could absolutely add eggshells. Let me bring that up. Eggshells. Here we go. Cascarilla, that's the stuff. Cascarilla is made from eggshells that have been crushed and ground to a powder. Powder can be dusted onto the body to protect from spirit possession. Also acts as a shield from psychic or magical attack. Can be sprinkled around your home to create a peaceful environment and to protect from intruders. Can also be used for drawing runes, sigils, and other symbols in ritual and magical workings. Eggshell does bring protection, but it also brings peace and calm. But if you are making black salt, just mix the salt with ash or with incense powder or with activated charcoal. But if you want to add eggshells, it would add another layer of protection to it. But I would grind the eggshells to a fine powder first. But either. Just give them a rinse first and dry them out. Either. Oh, yes, David. Yes, I apologise for that. I really do hear, yes. The boss man builder just came in then to check everything was all right. Jane, surely eggs are more for fertility and new beginnings. The eggs are. Eggshells bring in protection. That's where you've got the 4 elements. Let's bring up eggs again. Not that one, that one. Eggs. Right, eggs are fertility, creation, life, new beginnings, divination. So they bring in all 4 of those elements. They bring in so much. They are fertility. They are new life because of what the egg actually is. They are. I've got chocolate eggs in my head now. It is new life. And it does bring that magic. So eggs, fertility, creation, new life, new beginnings, also divination, because you can read from eggs. Boiling them, reading any cracks in the eggshells, tossing the eggs and divining the future. Umancy, it's called, apparently. Egg white, dripped onto a bowl of water and reading the shapes that it makes. So it brings divination as well. So eggs as a whole, yes, fertility, new life, new beginnings. Eggshells, dried and crushed, bring a really strong protection. Think about what the eggshell does for an egg. It protects it. So that's how the protection comes into it. Jalala, I often make black salt by gently grinding the ash from my burned incense with a pestle mortar, mixing it with white salt. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Jane, eggshells can be used to help our plants flourish. Absolutely, very good for the garden. And the slugs and snails don't like them. Protection. Sephora, so in the movies, a circle of salt protects or deflects. Yes. Boundary of salt is very, very protective. Hocus Pocus, Spiderwick Chronicles, all sorts of films. Salt brings protection, yes. Emma, just noticed the info scroll on the bottom screen. Yep, I'm pushing the Pagan Portal podcast. The first episode is already up on all of your usual podcast platforms and on the YouTube, Moonbooks YouTube channel. The second episode will be airing on Friday, noon on Friday. Kerry, what is Three Kings salt? That's a new one on me. Don't know that one. Has anybody heard of Three Kings salt? I haven't heard of that one. Jalala, you could try flicking salt water at the boat. No, they're nice people. No, they are very good lads. Maria, can you mix salt with ashes from a spell? I used my altar salt with herbs for my last one, then burned them as incense. I've actually got a mixture of altar salt. I think it came from the very lovely Freya's Cauldron in one of my boxes from them. And it's altar salt that you use to cleanse and consecrate your altar. I quite often use the ashes or the herbs and spices from a spell as an incense blend for the same purpose. So I would say yes, but it needs to be used for the same intent. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Claire, a mirror deflects, salt protects. I think it depends. I use, if you mix salt with other stuff as well, it will protect against negative energy. It will also dispel negative energy. Depends how you look at it, really. But yeah, that makes sense. Good morning, James. Pagan Portal podcast was amazing. Thank you. Morgan Daimler was amazing to talk to in the first episode. The second episode is with Rachel Roberts, and we're talking about the Roman goddess Lupa and all things wolfy. It was fascinating. That airs at 12 noon this Friday. Jane, Three Kings of Salt sounds like it's mixed with cocoa, all gold, frankincense and myrrh. It may well be. It sounds all right to me. Emma, I mix herbs and salt together with various spells, depends on what I'm doing. It provides a really good base for all sorts of things. Angela, Three Kings salt. Is it salt mixed with Terry's all gold, frankincense and myrrh? This is where we're going with this. I like the sound of it. Sephora, can I use herbal charcoal powder? Always have on hand food poisoning to make black salt. Don't see why not at all. Don't see why not at all. That sounds perfect. Oh, hello. Is the minion. Look, I'm gonna pay for calling her that. Three Kings salt is the name of a product made by Firecracker Farm in Carolina, according to Google. Okay. Does it have anything else added to it? Or is it just a brand name? I like the name of Firecracker Farm, though. That sounds good. So I think for me, use whatever you can afford. I don't think there's any need to spend lots of money on salt. Cheap, cheerful table salt is just as magical as fancy schmancy Himalayan pink poofy salt. I do use various different ones in cooking to eat with, but for magical purpose, for me, table salt is just as good as anything else. It provides a really good base for all sorts of things, and it is incredibly protective. Here we go. Amanda, Three Kings hot salt mixed with ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper pepper, and chipotle pepper. Oh, you'd like that.
Sounds good to me.
Salt, ghost pepper, Carolina Reaper pepper, and chipotle pepper. It sounds like hot foot powder to me. Hot salt is made by infusing coarse mineral-rich sea salt with Carolina Reaper, Trinidad Scorpion, and ghost pepper through our proprietary recipe that orchestrates a nuanced, nuanced, word of the day, nuanced progression of flavour and heat that is both exhilarating and delicious. Blow my head off, I think. It's just hot foot powder in edible form. That would be incredibly protective because chili brings a huge punch of protection energy. So cheap, cheerful, basic ingredient, fantastic to work with. Everyone's got it in the house, and it brings protection primarily, but also good for cleansing and purification. If you want to cleanse your altar or any magical tools, salt or salt water works really well. Just be mindful that water and some magical tools don't work well. Same with crystals. Make sure that they are water or salt. It's not going to damage them. Clear your sinus. It would, Sephora. Absolutely. Clear everything, I think. So there you go. Salt. We'll look at some other ingredients going forward. Everything has magic. So go with what you've got in your kitchen cupboards. Go with what suits your pocket. And at the end of the day, it's all energy. So connect with your ingredients to find out what they can do for you. Thank you, Sephora. Yeah, I must admit, 2 weeks of not having my own shower. We have been washing, I promise. Yeah, it's a little bit wearing now, but there you go. So thank you for joining us. Any students, we will see you on Saturday at the study hall. Other than that, I would see Eric's tail's beginning to wag. Let's get you on the screen. Hello. Hello. Other than that, we'll catch you all again. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Imbolc is, yes, it's not far away, is it? Oh, yes, Jalala, the first shower. Who's having the first shower?
Together.
And on that note, James, you are correct. Magic comes from within, not from your wallet. Absolutely, absolutely. I will see you all. Thank you for joining me. I will see you all next week. Everyone have a fantastic week.